Welcome to Lesson 9-6, Finding Common Denominators. Our learning goal will be to find common denominators for fractions with unlike denominators. Our vocabulary for this lesson will be least common denominator, when two or more fractions have the same denominator, which means the bottom number in a fraction. The denominators must be the same before you can add or subtract fractions. And you can find the least common denominator by finding the least common multiple of the fractions. So we're using what we did in the lesson 9-5 of finding least common multiple, and now we're going to show you how you use that to find least common denominator. Our learning goal will be that fractions with unlike denominators can be added or subtracted by replacing fractions with equivalent fractions with like denominators. There's a lot of words in that, and I'm going to show you as we go through that how that actually works to help you to be able to eventually add and subtract fractions. Here's an example. To find the common denominator for the fractions 7/12 and 5/6, you need to find the least common multiple of 12 and 6. Do you see where the 12 and 6 came from? The 12 is the denominator in 7/12, and the 6 is the denominator in 5/6. The least common denominator will be the common denominator for both fractions. So to the side here, you'll see where we've listed the multiples of 12, 12 and 24, and where we've listed multiples of 6 by listing 6 and 12. We could stop there because we found the least common multiple of 12, and this is going to become our new common denominator. So you'll see some math work down below, but I want to show you how this actually works when we're working with fractions. So our original fraction was 7/12. Oops, that 7 doesn't look too good. There we go. And 5/6. We found the least common multiple was 12. That's going to become our new denominator, or common denominator for both fractions. Well, 7/12's already had 12 as the denominator, so we don't need to do anything to this fraction. We just bring the 7 over. But in this fraction, we're really changing that 6 to a 12. And we do that through multiplication. We have to multiply the 6 times 2 to get 12. Well, there's a rule when you're working with fractions. Anything you do to the denominator, to the bottom part of the fraction, you must also do the same thing to the top part of the fraction. So since I multiplied 6 times 2, I now have to multiply 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. We have just created an equivalent fraction. 5/6 is equivalent to 10/12. But now we have both of our fractions that we need to work with that have the same common denominator. Now we'd be ready to add or subtract or whatever we were asked to do. So let's take a look at practice problem number 1. Find the common denominator for the pair of fractions 2/3 and 3/4. Really remember that we're just finding the least common multiple of 3 and of 4, just like we did in lesson 9-5. You can do this by listing the multiples or by using the make a cake strategy. Please choose the one you'd like to use, pause, work the problem, and press play when you're ready to check your answer. Did you write 12? Well, I want to show you both ways of doing that. We could list the multiples of both 3 and 4. Some of those multiples would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Some multiples of 4 would be 4, 8, 12, and 16. If we found a common multiple, the least common multiple would be 12. If we use the make a cake strategy to do that, remember we would just put 3 and 4 inside the bottom layer of our cake. The only thing that goes into both 3 and 4, the only common factor they have is 1. 1 will go into 3 times. 1 will go into 4 times, and then we know we've done everything we can with making our cake. We draw our upside down L, and then we multiply those numbers together. 1 times 3 is 3, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 is our least common multiple. And then the way that would work is we would replace or rename these fractions, our original fractions, with our new common denominator, which would now be 12. And then we would do the math like I showed you before, which you'll learn a little bit more about in the next lessons, but I'll go ahead and do this one with you. 4 times 3 is 12. We have to multiply 3 times 3 then, because anything we do to the bottom of our fraction, we must also do to the top. So we rename 3/4 into 9/12. We've made it an equivalent fraction. In order to get 3 to become 12, we have to multiply that times 4. Anything we do to the denominator, we must also do to the numerator. So 2 times 4 is 8. Now we could work with 8/12 and 9/12, and now we can do addition and subtraction with those because they have a common denominator. Find the common denominator for the pair of fractions 3/8 and 2/3. Please work this out. Press pause while you're doing that. Press play when you're ready to check your work with mine. Did you get 24? Well, if we listed out the multiples of 3, that would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 24. If we list multiples of 8, that would be 8, 16, 24. We found that common multiple, the least common multiple, which would become our new denominator. If we wanted to use make a cake strategy, 3 and 8 would be in our bottom layer. The only thing that goes into both 3 and 8 is 1. Goes in 3 times, goes in 8 times. Draw my upside down L for least common, and then we multiply. 1 times 3 is 3, 3 times 8 is 24. And you can kind of see why this strategy is appealing to some people because it simplifies things a little bit, makes it a few less steps. Okay, let's look at practice problem number 3. Find a common denominator for the pair of fractions 3/7 and 1/2. Please press pause, work it out, and then press play when you're ready to check with me. Did you write 14? Okay, let's list those multiples of 7 and of 2. Multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21. I could keep going, but I don't think I need to for this one. Multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I could keep going on, but I really don't need to because I found my least common multiple of 14. Make a cake strategy. 7 and 2 go in the bottom layer. The only thing that goes into both 7 and 2 is 1. 1 goes into 7 times. 1 goes into 2 times. I know that there isn't going to be anything else. Even if I continue to do layers, it's still going to be the same. I draw that upside down L, and then I multiply those together. 1 times 7 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14, which is my least common multiple, which becomes my new common denominator. 3/7 and 1/2. In order to get 7 to be 14, I have to multiply it times 2. I have to do the same thing to the numerator. I have to multiply the 2 times 7 to get 14. I have to do the same thing to the numerator. And now I have fractions that have a common denominator that I can work with. Good job if you got that. Let's practice our word problem. Lauren says that you can use one of the denominators of 5/6 and 11/30 when renaming fractions using a common denominator. Why is this true? Go back and think about what we've been doing in all of the practice problems. Again, we're trying to find common denominator of 5/6 and 11/30. And she's saying that we can use one of these denominators to do that. So let's see if we can prove if that's true. Please take a moment, work this out, and press play when you're ready to check your work with mine. Did you write you can use 30 as the common denominator since 30 is the least common multiple of 6 and 30? Well, let's see if that's correct. Multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. I think I'm going to stop there. Multiples of 30 would be 30, 60, 90. The least common multiple is 30. If I use the make a cake strategy, 6 and 30 would go in my bottom layer of my cake. What is something that will go into both 6 and 30? Well, 6 will. 6 will go into 6 one time. 6 will go into 6 5 times. And then I can stop right there, multiply these together. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. I get 30 as my LCM, which is also my common denominator. Okay, good job. It's time to challenge yourself. Mrs. Dale rides a motorcycle. It will take 2.5 gallons of gasoline to fill her tank. She has $10 to spend on gasoline. Does she have enough money to fill her tank? Explain. Show your work and explain your answer in your journal. We will go over it tomorrow in class. So be sure to use this table. Think about the math work that we've been doing. You may have some of these, remember, are multi-step or things like that. So give it your best shot. Come in with an answer, even if you're not 100% sure. That's why we call these challenge problems. Sometimes they're a little bit tricky. All right, so let's finish up. Review your learning goals. Have you mastered all of them? Do you need to go back and review or practice again? In your journal, write down if you were at a 1, a 2, or a 3 in your learning. In your journal, please write down 1 or 2 questions you might still have about this lesson that you'd like to discuss with your teacher tomorrow. You have completed lesson 9-6, Finding Common Denominators. This is an important lesson because it's really going to help you in the next couple that are coming up when you're really going to be adding and subtracting fractions. You did a fantastic job. See you tomorrow.